Hey, it's Rob Snowhite. It is Tuesday, the 24th of March, and we're stuck at home, not fishing today, just tying some flies. Got a break, so I'm going to talk about this frog pattern here. What it is, how it swims, how to tie it, how I've improved on it over the years. I call it the Gutless frog. It's a name I got from the first person I ever heard the pattern from. On Instagram, he's just PA Fishing. P-A-F-I-S-H-I-N-G. Said I needed a cool frog, trying to catch snakeheads. What should I use? He suggested a gutless frog and showed something that I mimicked. And then I played around with it. It didn't stay on the hook. The hook wasn't right. So I started playing around with it. And I come up with sort of what I have now, but more improved. And then I find out it's based on a fly from a guy in Australia named Rob Meade. Here's his version. So I see that. That gives me absolutely no indication of what this fly looks like, how to tie it. It's one view. From what I understand, he has his body fused together like this. Well, I have my body together like this. And the improvements I've done over the years were to epoxy here and here. That keeps the hook from wobbling free from the foam. And then I could change the legs. If you want your fly to more of just skirt across the water like this, you tie them in closer to the 6 o'clock. If you want your frog to kick as it moves, you're going to put them more out, have them more like a bigger V shape, more at 5 and 7. You can see a video of how this fly actually moves right now. Let's go to that video. Film. All right, so that showed us how they swim in the water. It looks pretty cool. It's mostly weedless. A lot of times it will land this way, but strip it a couple times, it'll right itself. It's kind of expensive to tie. It doesn't require much. There's basically no wraps in it. And it's nearly indestructible. I have old bodies of these in the truck, in my carport, in the garage, whatever you want to call it. And just the legs get degraded. You can always repop holes in it. You don't need these legs, but as you saw in that video, it does look a little bit better having some legs out to swim. Frogs don't naturally swim this way in the water, but these fish are not that bright. Strange things I've caught on it. Caught some bluegill, caught green sunfish. No smallmouth yet that I can remember. Definitely caught a lot of largemouth. And we've recently learned about them catching snakeheads. That's right. So let's go to a picture of a yellow one of these in a snakehead's mouth. Editors. Okay. So a snakehead recently ate one of these. So I am now going to officially promote this as a snakehead fly. You've seen the pictures. See the evidence. Now I'm going to teach you how to tie it. With regards to those old videos back from when we lived at the old house, these are going to be new. I'm going to show you how to epoxy, just how to make this super durable, and the hook I use. So to start with, we're going to use a Matsuo hook. I'm going to set that in the vise like this. The thread I'm going to use is 210 denier, sort of lime green. The body itself is going to be made out of Rainey's float foam. I think this stuff is about $7 a pack now. It has gotten more expensive. To pull the legs through, one of Zuddy's leg pullers. It's just a sharpened back end of a needle. We're going to use round medium legs. And then we're going to use some epoxy resin. This one matches. Almost. And a little cup from salsa tasting something somewhere. And we're going to mix it all with a bodkin. So let me start. I am really only going to do the wraps right at this juncture. Lay down some thread at the bottom of that little bend there. I'm going to cut any tag end of thread off. I'm going to take out a float foam. When you have leftovers of this, you can get 6 frogs per package. When you've got just little pieces left over, it makes really good, simple Chernobyl ants, just easy topwater flies. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to measure it around just in front of the hook eye. Looks like that. I'm going to trim this away. Put that to the side. I personally like yellow. My favorite density of yellow, black, orange, or white. So now I'm here, and what I'm going to do is crank really hard a couple times behind that bend. 1, 2, it's smoking. That's how tight that is. Without breaking it. You should know the tensile strength of your thread before you start cranking down. So there, it looks like that. That's how I originally started tying them, and it worked fine for 1 or 2 fish, and then it would just start falling apart and wobble off, and I started to end up wasting this foam material. So now I'm going to peel back those 2 nubs. I'm going to wrap up the bed of the eye. Then I'm going to do the same again, wrapping tightly. This is not some natural frog-looking head, but this is how the fly. I'm just going to knot that, and then I'll bring it over. Make sure each one of those wraps goes in the same spot. Don't break your thread. If you break your thread, just cut it all out of the fly and move forward. So there, I've knotted it. I've cut it off. We're done with that. So there's the frog's body. And there you can see how I wrap the head. That's a little tight in there. It's covering the hook eye, but we'll try not to epoxy over that. So now is the epoxy time. We'll take our little cup. You're not going to see this. And I'm going to take just, as my chemistry professor would say, a dollop. Just a dollop. And we're only going to be epoxying one side right now. Epoxy, let it dry. We flip it over, do the other side. Again, just not a skosh, not a smidgen, just a dollop. All right, so those are now mixed. Bodkin. I like the 2 bottles of epoxy better than the 1 unit that has both left and right tube, and then you squeeze it out. Never got a good mix on those. Okay. So it's got a little thicker consistency. If I sit here and wait 5 minutes, it'll happen. Well, in the meantime, I am going to lay this perfectly horizontal, and I'm going to mix the epoxy here and then down into there where the hook is, so the hook won't be able to go back and forth in the foam. Horizontal. And I'm just going to lay it in there and let gravity just take it in between where the hook and the foam meet. I've tried UV cures. I love my Solarez, but I still will go back only and use epoxy on this. I won't use it on anything else. And then I'm going to lay some down over those thread wraps on top too, just because I've got some extra in there. Okay. Make sure it's touching the hook. And now, with the magic of the internet, I'm going to snap my fingers, and we're going to be back to where it was. It'll be done on both sides. All right, look what I did while we were waiting. So this is the body, and you can see now that it's got a nice, hard, epoxied bottom, nice hard epoxy top. What we're going to do now is put some legs in it. So I've pre-measured out for the leg puller. It is about 5 rubber legs, and if we're going to measure this, using about 8 inches. So you get about 3.5 per side when it sticks out. Again, if you want the legs to drop down, you put them closer together. If you put them at 5 and 7 or 4 and 8, you get even a more kicking action. Put that in my mouth because that's just where I hold it. I am going to, let me mark this for you. It's like we're doing surgery. I'm going to go towards the little past 5 and 7. Take my leg puller, stick it in through that, comes out the other side, take my rubber legs, thread them through that little eye, that much sticking out, and watch, I'm going to pull. It's going to make a snapping sound. All the legs just came through. Now I'm going to go back on the other side where the dot is. Again, I'm going to thread that through, and then I'm going to pull. The previous versions of this, it looked like people just tied them on or glued them in, but I use my leg puller. Then you can just kind of snap at them and they all come loose. So there you have the froggy legs. It's pretty sweet looking. All right. Now, to make this mostly weedless, see how that hook is sticking up? That's pretty cool. That's nice. If it flips over, it's going to be a little in the way. So you can see inside here, I have got a little bump where the rubber legs are. See, that's open right there? I'm going to slide the hook back in through that and pull. And now it rests flat. Thus the reason I went with this hook, the Matsuo, instead of the big wormy looking one. So now I'm going to put in the kicking legs. I'm going to go right behind the epoxy. Again, we'll mark it. Here and here. I'm going to thread all the way through this time. I've got a shorter piece that is 2.5 inches long. Thread that through. And then I'm going to pull. And you don't want to break your rubber legs when you do this. There you go. I find that amount of rubber legs fits through the foam without coming loose. If you were to do 2 or 3, they come loose. It's also the right amount that fit through your Zuddy's leg puller. Now you can go ahead and Sharpie these up. I've got those stains, so I can give my frog some leopard spots because there's going to be leopard frogs out soon. Now it looks like Tony the Tiger. Tony the Tiger frog. So I don't know if I can really call this a gutless frog. I still call it that. I give Rob Meade credit when I sell them on my website. You can buy these Etsy, eBay, from my home store as well. And that's it. Fairly easy fly if you got the right material. That is Meade's themed gutless frog. Now go out and tie these. Now, let's look at some habitat where the snakeheads might be living so you know where to throw these along the Potomac River. Out in just a second.